Hello, Light Path family and beautiful light seekers and souls. Welcome back to another episode of the Light Path podcast with me, Kirsten Leo. I always appreciate you joining me and the support that you do give the podcast. So thank you for all the podcast episodes that you have shared over socials, pushing it out to people in your own personal lives and communities that you think may benefit from what is discussed here. And obviously subscribing to the podcast and giving it a review really helps to get it out there to grow our community of light path seekers. So thank you so much for all of that. This episode is a really special one. It's one that I feel really deeply called to bring forward, and not just as a guide or a channel or a teacher, but someone who is walking this path right alongside you. And I felt this call, I was inspired in this call during the full moon in Libra that we had back in April, almost a little less than a month ago now. And as we know, full moons are a beautiful time of release because the entire light of the moon is illuminating, showing us what may be tying us back, what may be preventing us from moving forward and blocking the flow and the abundance and the connection that at our core we desire and absolutely deserve. At the full moon in Libra, we were working with the Libran archetype, one which I think is quite misunderstood often. I don't know if you have any Librans in your life, but the Librans in mine, I've always found them really charismatic. I find them really a joy to be around, that they seek balance, yes, and they seek justice, of course. But Libra is ruled by Venus, so they also seek beauty. And I think that the strength of the archetype of Libra isn't necessarily, talked about as much. And it's something that I felt really called to dive into at that full moon. Because Libra, at its essence, is a truth seeker. It doesn't necessarily seek surface level harmony, but it seeks genuine soul level alignment. And when we work with the Libran archetype and its energy, it really invites us to make things not just pretty, not just look good on the outside, but deeply and authentically right. So at its core, Libran energy seeks truth. And it seeks authenticity. So working with this Libran energy and this full moon off the back of a pretty intense eclipse season that we had just been through, the truth that Libra was asking us to acknowledge and to alchemize was to alchemize our own personal truth. And I think that we can look at the lighter parts of ourselves for sure, but with the light of the full moon, we're exposed to maybe the more gritty parts of ourselves, or maybe the shadow self. And as a result, I dove deep in with the move members on the shadow self, and I couldn't help but dive deep on it here with you, because from what was coming through and what I was learning and then sharing was so inspiring, because it's a way I've never seen the shadow before. I think I've always seen the shadow as something to fix, whereas for the first time in that Libran energy, it was seen, or it was shown to be, as something to integrate. And I think that that is so powerful, because then the shadow self can come with this energy of an ally as we journey towards living more authentically and empowered and in full alignment with the soul and the joy that it seeks, the lessons that it is willing to learn, and the gifts that it is here to bring to this earth at this time. So whether you're listening to this with a journal beside you, or you're simply letting these words move through you whilst you're on a walk or you are driving, I would really invite you to receive this transmission of guidance as a kind of remembrance, because none of this is truly new. It's just what your soul would like you to know because it already embodies its truth. So let's start off by looking at what the shadow actually is energetically and spiritually. So the shadow self is not something that is hidden inside of you. It is not this villain or the broken, wrong, dangerous, or even shameful part of yourself or your psyche. It is simply the part of your consciousness that holds what has been denied, disowned, and made invisible by you, maybe by others, or by the systems that we've been raised in. And from an energetic and spiritual perspective, the shadow is like the storage place for unexpected and unexpressed truths, for sacred desires that you thought were maybe too much or maybe not acceptable or unattainable, for aspects of your personality and your self-expression that didn't seem to fit in, and for gifts and sensitivities that may once have been met with some shame or ridicule. And so we take all of that and we store it away. We lock it away from our own for our own self-protection and preservation, and for that primal need that we all have to fit in and to connect with others in order to survive. But what is denied can never truly be hidden. And I think that that is the power of the shadow. So it's important to understand this. The shadow is not just trauma or negativity. It is also all the parts of us that are brilliant. The brilliance that you taught to bury in order to survive. It holds your creativity, it holds your fire, it holds your sensuality, it holds your truth-telling, often your spiritual knowing and your unapologetic essence. But because these parts may once have triggered rejection or punishment even, it's like they got pushed underground, not erased, but they were filed away, they were hidden. And anything hidden still carries energy. It still has a powerful force. So this means that until it is acknowledged, the shadow continues to run in the background. And it helps shape our beliefs, our behaviors, and the way we allow ourselves to live and to love and to lead in this world. And it is this part of ourselves that is motivating us to connect. Maybe based on false narratives, maybe based on unauthentic or inauthentic ways of connecting. Because we hide for a reason. And we hide these parts of ourselves for a reason. I don't think any of us just expose parts of ourselves and then decide, I really don't want to share that part of myself because of our own motivations. It's usually because of how we perceive it's going to be accepted or rejected, or how it was accepted or rejected. And we all learn how to perform in some way to be acceptable, to be lovable, to be safe. And maybe you learned to be like the good girl, or maybe you learned to be the high achiever, or maybe you're the caretaker or the peacekeeper. And maybe you learned to completely numb your emotions, or to shrink your desires, or to even silence what is true for you. Perhaps you're a combination of a lot, if not all, of those things in different areas in spaces and places and relationships in your life. And so parts of us, as we grew and as we moved through the world, perhaps got labeled as like too intense, or you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, you're too bold, you're too loud, you're too selfish, you're not enough. And the not enoughs can be a laundry list. You're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, you're not skinny enough, whatever it is. The not enoughs are huge. And it's a huge part of the shadow self. And so here's the thing. A shadow isn't just what we reject in ourselves. It's often what others rejected first. And then, as a need to survive, we rejected it. But the problem is that we can't live our full soul truth whilst pretending those parts of ourselves don't exist. We can't build a purpose-driven life by pushing down the very aspects that carry our deepest knowings and our authenticity. And so this is why we do shadow work. And I think that part of my early experience with shadow work was to heal and to fix it. But my perception and understanding of that has radically changed. I now see shadow work as not something to fix because it's broken, but rather shadow work is a reclamation of what was once lost. And that is why I now see shadow work as one of the most empowering ways of healing. So shadow, in a huge way, is probably our biggest spiritual esoteric ally. Because from an esoteric lens, the shadow is not a curse, it's an initiation. It's like a sacred guardian at the threshold of your next level. It asks, are you willing to meet yourself in your fullness? Are you ready to stop performing and start embodying? And can you hold your messiness with as much love as you hold your vision? And this is where real power resides. This is where it is born. This is where real authenticity lives. And I don't know about you, but as we move into these new cosmic climates and eras, we've had the shift into the age of Aquarius. We've had Neptune shift into Aries for a new 14-year cycle. And there is more to come this year in terms of shifting the climate and therefore the consciousness of the whole, of the collective, and the focus of the collective in terms of what we value and what we want to see. I'm only interested in authenticity in other people, regardless of how messy or perhaps flawed they or I perceive it to be. Don't come to me perfect. Come to me real. I recently had a client and it was a very difficult conversation that we had. And she apologized for maybe showing up in a way that she didn't expect to show up. And I just thought, wow, I wouldn't have wanted you any other way. And I think that's what made the conversation so fruitful and so beautiful. Because here's the truth. Energy does not lie. You can build a brand, you can build a relationship with somebody, you can build a business that looks amazing on the outside, you can build a wardrobe, you can build a lifestyle. But if the foundation is based on self-abandonment, it won't be able to be sustained and it won't sustain you. And this is why I have gone on for years about intention. The intention with which you do anything will determine its yield, its result, and your experience of that. So if your intention is based in self-abandonment, then however it manifests cannot sustain you. Shadow work allows us to get really clear on that energy and on that intention. And it lets us anchor into authenticity, which, as you know, that's what we're all about. It is a pillar of the business that I've created in the Light Path Collective. Because when our actions match our truth, the whole universe moves with us. And that doesn't mean you always get it right. That doesn't mean you always show up in the fullest expression of your truth. But when you try, the universe will help you clear the path and make it at least a tiny bit more smooth than what it would have been. So the shadow holds a dormant life force. And I think that this is the energy that we may need to at least acknowledge when it comes to the shadow. So imagine within you, within each and every single one of us, there is this life force that is just lying dormant. And so shadow work becomes a reclamation of that part, like your voice, your desire, your boundaries, you release energy that has been tied up and in hiding. And that energy then can be redirected towards creation, towards magnetism, towards expansion, towards abundance, towards intimacy, towards connection, towards intuition, whatever it is that is right for you. And this is why people say that they feel lighter after doing deep inner work. It's because they are literally lighter, because they're no longer carrying the weight of being someone that they are not. How freeing, how beautiful, like what an invitation. And from a spiritual perspective, the shadow teaches us that some of our most powerful lessons live in discernment, in that what is truly yours versus what is inherited by you. It teaches us the lesson of boundaries, what you allow, and what you are no longer willing to tolerate. It teaches us self-responsibility, the sacred art of meeting yourself without blame or bypass. And it teaches us embodiment, the permission to live in your complete wholeness. Flaws, gifts, contradictions, and all of it. The art of being human is essentially messy. And obviously, in the rise of things like social media, we have been honed in on curating the things that look good, the things that don't contradict or don't change. But that's not human. It's human to change. It's human to evolve, to grow, and to outgrow. And when we are shunned and shamed for that, it becomes part of our shadow. But we don't have to live there. We can completely reclaim it. And so we should. We should absolutely reclaim it. So how do you do that? Well, we begin by softening. And I really think that even listening to this and seeing your shadow as the guardian at the gate to your next level of expansion and evolution and greatness, I think begins that softening by the miracle of shifting the perception of how we see the shadow. That the shadow is not what we may have envisioned it to be in the past. It is not that villain. It is not that wrong, broken, dangerous, shameful thing inside of us. It's just the part of our consciousness that holds what has been denied, disowned, or made invisible by you, by others, or by the systems that we've been raised in and even now move within. It's the unexpressed truths that are longing to see the light of day. So we begin by softening. We begin by listening. And we replace the shame with curiosity. Just asking ourselves, what part of me still feels like it's not safe to be seen? Like, what a powerful question. Simple, but really powerful. And then holding that part with love and non-judgment and viewing it as that guardian at the gate. Like, what if the shame was not the weak part of you, but it was the strong part of you? The part of you that was actually standing up for you and protecting you, keeping you safe, and not exposing the parts that you weren't comfortable with being seen. And so what if we spoke to that guardian without judgment and just had a conversation that really allowed us to ask, well, what desires has this guardian at the gate pushed down because we didn't feel worthy or safe to connect with or express them? Maybe asking, well, where am I still performing? And what would it look like instead to be really authentic and real? Also, then we are going to be able to alchemize that by choosing over and over again to meet ourselves where we are. Not because we have finished growing, but because we finally know that we are worthy at every stage of becoming. You are never going to be a finished product. And I am not sorry to break that news to you. I am honored to break that news to you. I think it's a beautiful truth. We are never fully done. And it would really, how boring would it be if we were? What do we do then? Do we just die? It would be so dull. People are living versions of this though by not shifting and changing, and it feels sluggish. But when we meet our shadows, ourselves as we are, we have to choose to be able to see ourselves as still worthy of pursuing the dreams, of speaking our truths, of desiring what we desire, of being who we truly long to be, and how we long to be that version of ourselves. And we know in this universe, like attracts like. And so the more you are authentic yourself, the more you are going to attract people that literally like that or are like that. In the universe, we also have polarity. So therefore, you're also going to be able to detract, but also attract what balances that out. So I invite you, as you move through your days and you ponder on this, to consider that the light you are seeking may actually live in your shadow. That you don't need to be more perfect to be more powerful. That you do not need to be more pleasing to be more loved. You only need to be more you. And when you do that, when you reclaim the parts of yourself that have been left behind, you don't just shift your energy, you shift your future, you shift your timeline, you shift your story, you shift your power. You shift your point of attraction, you shift your vibration. Basically, everything shifts is really what I'm getting at here. Your shadow is not something that you need to escape from. Your shadow isn't something that you need to feel shame about, because there is a miracle here. There is a shift in perception on offer for you. You can see your shadow as a sacred doorway. And I promise you, everything that you have been waiting for is on the other side of that. Thank you once again for joining me on this soul deep journey into the shadow self. Obviously, if you are inside the Premium Moon membership, be sure to check out the work we did on that at the full moon in Libra. And definitely on both levels of membership, the guided meditation, where we walked through a beautiful shadow alchemy practice, helping you reclaim what you have hidden and reawaken what you came here to live. But until next time, stay soft, stay curious, stay sovereign, and responsible for your own light and greatness, and stay soul-led. As always, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Light Path podcast, and I look forward to the next time we get to chat.